Our next guest is another very good friend of mine, somebody that I've known for a few years now and have referred people to him and have great respect for him as well, Mr. David Moos with Assisted Senior Transitions. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you also.
As I just mentioned, man, I always enjoy seeing people that I really do like to refer people to and get caught up. And, we see each other at different places, but it's always busy and you're marketing or talking or doing or speaking or whatever, and it seems like we can just have a chat when we're here, and that's kind of nice. So
it's a more relaxed atmosphere actually than most of the places we go.
That's true. So tell me and our listeners, really, I know what you do, but tell everybody what you do with Assisted Senior Transitions.
My primary goal in meeting a family that needs help for their loved one is to find the best place for them to go. In general, they call us a placement service.
Okay.
Some people call us a referral system.
Mm-hmm.
Mine I take as being truly a placement. I want to meet the family, find out what their needs are, find out what the individual who needs the care needs, whether it's a medical issue or if it's a mental issue or if it's a dementia issue, whichever it might be, and sometimes those are very mixed.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There are some places that do a better job with people with certain types of Alzheimer's or dementia than others. There are 7-8 different designations for it, as we all know. Some of them are caused by things, maybe early drug abuse when they were young, which is a different type of dementia and behavioral dementia than somebody who has age-related dementia.
Okay.
Which just is a long term of slowly getting a little less capable cognitively. So by evaluating them, I can also tell where they'll go best. And some places won't take anybody that has behavioral problems.
Sure.
There are a few that will work with them. They'll work with a family as long as they're well cared for, they have the right medications, they've gone through UCSF to get a complete diagnosis and well balanced on the medications they're on. It can make a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
But the primary goal is to meet with them, take them personally to these places and introduce them to the caregivers that they're going to be relying on. Tell them what they do best there. If they have any shortcomings, let them know. Make it sure for them right up front what it's going to cost them, so that they don't run around taking tours in all 15 of the nice big facilities we have and find out they can only afford one.
Which actually is very common.
It is.
I've heard you say before, and I really think this is so true, that you save people an average of 100 hours in their research, because people don't know the difference between the different types of care, do they?
No.
Assisted, residential care, skilled, whatever, and then, the price differences, which ones might take the VA or Medi-Cal or don't, or how their funding works. And I think that's huge, folks. We see so many people in crisis, and we always try to tell them, listen, you take care of your loved one, and we'll take care of you. And I think that's really what you're doing is saving them a ton of time, because you already know the facilities, you know the people, you know their strengths and weaknesses and their areas of expertise.
And families often, they'll go to the internet immediately and just look for assisted living facilities.
Okay.
But what they don't understand from that is that the website is all pretty pictures. And they don't tell you how much they charge. And they all sound like it's probably the Ritz. That's not always the case. If you know the level of care at each one of these facilities, and you know their basic price range depending on what the needs of the individual are, you can winnow them all out. In 15 minutes on the internet, just getting a list of those places down, or their addresses, is going to then cost you 50 hours of time trying to go around and figure out what they really are about.
Well, and it's a little delicate subject here, but maybe if I approach it, it won't be so bad. There are people on the internet that will be glad to send you a email list. I've been told by my clients and then they will email every facility on that list. So if that person shows up, they get credit for it. But they don't take you on a tour. They don't give you, really, in my opinion, in my experience, a personalized, take you by the hand, walk with you, and do an assessment so that they know the local flavor of who is going to be the best fit for your loved one.
Often the person that you're communicating with is in Colorado or New York,
Sure.
or wherever in the country. They're not here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't even ask you how much you can afford in the
Really?
process.
Oh,
That's
wow.
why you get that whole list. And the first one you walk into, they say, well, it'll cost you, the room and board portion will be $4,000 a month. Added to that will be the care. By the time we're done, there's $6,000.
Sure.
That person will walk in there with $3,500 in their pocket, and that's it. That's not the place they want to go,
Yeah.
or should go.
Exactly.
And it's number one, it hurts their feelings to realize that they can't take care of their loved ones or themselves. And there's a lot of guilt in making the decision to take your loved one into one of these facilities in the
Yeah.
first place.
That's right.
You want to psychologically approach it with that family member so that they realize they're not doing something wrong to their
Exactly.
loved one. They're
Exactly.
actually helping them, giving
Yeah.
them better care than they can probably give them themselves.
Well, you know what? You're really hitting on something that I know I've had so many conversations with, especially an elderly spouse who's been the caregiver for 2 or 3 years, and now we're just about to have 2 people that need care as a result. And because of the vow that they made when they were at the altar, they feel that nobody else can care for that person. And yet that conversation of trying to convince them that providing another level of care is actually an extension of their care to this loved one, that's a hard conversation, isn't it?
It's very difficult, and often you can't break through that wall. I've had several clients where they,
Yeah.
at the last minute, even though they were convinced at one point that it was the best thing to do, they pull back and say, no, I'm going to keep my loved one at home.
Yeah.
And that usually ends up, unfortunately, in a disaster moment.
I was going to say
The hospital
crisis.
gets involved, and the doctor says flat out, this person can no longer be cared for at home.
Sure.
And usually by that point, unfortunately, it may mean skilled nursing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
earlier you get help for that loved one, the more likely they are to be able to stay in assisted living because they have eyes on.
You bet.
They are more attuned to figuring out if there's something going wrong with the individual. They're
Exactly.
quicker to respond and get
Yeah.
them the medical need taken
And they're
care
only
of.
doing it 8 hours at a time.
Right.
You know, and then you
Right.
got fresh blood coming in for another 8 hours,
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
it's really, folks, it takes a toll. And David's hit on something that I wasn't expecting we'd get into today, but I'm glad that we are, because most people, my experience anyway, is most people stay at home too long, and then they become required to live elsewhere and be cared for elsewhere because the proper level of care cannot be taken care of at home.
Right.
And actually staying at home 24/7 is much more expensive than in a residential care or assisted living.
It is. If you get to the point where you have to have home care come in, like your previous guest, she does a really good job with
yeah.
home care.
Sure.
On the other hand, if you had them 24/7, you're going to be at around $16,000 a month.
Sure.
Very few families can afford that.
That's right. Yeah.
The difference is the most you'll pay in an assisted living facility, as long as the care is not completely over the top, is about $6,000 roughly.
Okay.
You can go up to 7 or 8 if they're in hospice while they're in the care facility,
Sure.
and their extreme needs to be met.
Okay.
And in anywhere from 3,500 to 4,500 basically for
That
the
about an
license for
average?
6.
Okay. Okay. So how do people find, well, we got it on the screen.
Well, the best thing is to call my cell number,
Okay.
which is 559-750-8787.
Okay.
and I have it with me 24/7. I do not work at regular hours like most of the people in our industry. You
Yeah,
have
what
to
are
work.
those?
I have no idea, but I was raised on a dairy, so it's about the same.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So, folks, we're talking with David Moos, the owner of Assisted Senior Transitions, and if you're looking to understand the different options that are available out there for your loved one, if being at home is just being a little bit too much right now, and it looks like you're going to have to make some decisions about where to go next, I would highly recommend that you call David. He's my first choice and somebody that I have a lot of experience with and a lot of respect for as well. So I appreciate you being on the show today.
My pleasure.
So,
Thank
okay.
you.
You bet. David Moos with Assisted Senior Transitions. You can find him on the web. You can reach him at 559-750-8787. And we'll be back with Ron Killian in just a moment.